Hey, you're not going to believe this, but we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and today we're talking about Metro Awakening. This is from Dutch studio Vertigo Games, who previously worked on the zombie VR shooter Arizona Sunshine, though this is a very different type of game. It's like a full-on Metro game in VR. It's canon, and it's like part of the world that author Dmitry Glukovsky built. It's available on Quest, PC, and PSVR 2. I've been playing a review copy, and this footage is captured running on PC and is spoiler-free. Metro Awakening here feels like a big, authentic Metro experience in VR. They absolutely went for it and nailed a lot of the mechanics and feeling with a couple of small issues. The game itself around it, though, like around that gameplay, is relatively simple and might run out of steam for some folks. It also has some significant flaws I'll talk about. Even still, I think if you happen to be like that perfect combination, right? That like you're super into Metro and you're also super into VR, you should give this a try at some point.
Oh, there's bound to be something useful.
There's some interesting things to talk about. So if you don't know Metro, just know it's nuclear Armageddon. It happened, and people are living mostly underground in the Moscow metro systems. People scrounge up a life in like the abandoned subway trains and tunnels down here, and raiders pillage, irradiated monsters raise hell in the wilderness. And in this one, you actually play as a different character. You're a voiced protagonist, Serdar, who is a doctor living with his wife in a settlement. Unfortunately, she's plagued with issues after the death of their child years earlier, and she ends up going missing, and it's up to you to go on this brutal Metro-style journey. That's some of it, sorta. I'm kind of giving you the back-of-the-box description to keep it spoiler-free. I will say it gets a little trippy, and I also, like, the game just leans surprisingly heavy on story. Characters you meet have lots to say. There are cutscene-style moments and stuff. When you roam the tunnels and abandoned buildings, you're often listening to dialogue on a radio and your character constantly chirping. There's a lot of exposition and some character depth, and like you're gonna find it either interesting or annoying. It's well written. I like the ideas behind a lot of it, but I don't know, the way it flowed and when it popped up, I also just kind of found myself saying, okay, let's wrap up this conversation. I'm creeping around a dark tunnel right now. Leave me alone. That's personal preference, of course, but I am a big story guy. I don't usually feel that way, but for some reason here I did. And I think all the characters chirping on the radio really made me want to just get through it and get to the action, because the gameplay is where the game is best. Specifically, like I said at the start, because of how they adapted Metro's kind of survival horror-ish gameplay mechanics. So you have a Last of Us style backpack system. You pull it out from over your left shoulder, and then you have like a little note with your mission objective, a compass, and then a bunch of like real-time equipment hanging off the backpack. Among other things, your gas mask that you can pull off and put on at will, extra filters for it, your handy dandy lighter, and your little hand crank battery charger thing. Things are really intuitive here. So like to turn on your headlamp, just reach up to your forehead and click. When the light inevitably starts to die out, whip out that charger from your backpack and start cranking to charge it back up. When I put my gas mask on, condensation starts to build up on the lens after a while, and before the game even told me with a tutorial message, I just wiped at my face and was able to get rid of it. Like, the game just really is clever from a VR standpoint. It kind of understands the Metro thing. And if you've played a Metro and you understand that, it's just like a good synergy between you and the game. A lot of it is just kind of smart and neatly implemented, from how you power and open up doors, to how you heal yourself with a kind of injection gun, to the ease of use of climbing up and down ladders and stuff. It's fairly accessible. And of course, it has all those VR settings you want in terms of like graphic settings, settings and movement settings to turn down your motion sickness if you're a bit more of a beginner. Now, of course, shooting is a big part of the game, and it takes quite some time to get used to. It's not really forgiving at all, and it requires razor sharp precision, dude. So I hope your shooting is good. The gross, fast little enemies that jump out of vent shafts are incredibly annoying and bullshit and tough to deal with. I guess that's the point, but I found it really frustrating. Where I liked shooting stuff was like with the bigger, nastier creatures and the human enemies. Gunfights can be pretty intense, and most importantly, like survival horror-y desperate. Also, again, incredibly challenging. Like I said, it takes some time getting used to, and I found it tough even on normal difficulty. But like the bang, 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 and the flash of weapons in the dark are powerful and effective. And also reloading is always satisfying. You don't know how much ammo you have in the moment, so you're often going to be mid-fight and then you pop out of a corner and click, oh shit, you're out. And then you go, oh crap, and you scramble away hoping to like maybe pick up a dead guy's gun or rummage through your stuff real quick as bullets are flying overhead or as monsters are chasing you. That desperation is a good feeling. You feel like a dirty guy in a tunnel scrambling about trying not to get too much radiation and hopefully kill a bunch of dudes and get some supplies. This is where they absolutely nail it. Now, stealth is often required if you want to try and save some bullets and have a better time, but I found all the stealth stuff really finicky. Enemy detection is unpredictable, and sometimes it feels like you're too easily and unfairly detected by enemies, like with like laser vision. It's not a matter of like me sucking at stealth, it's a matter of like the game not feeling like it has it fully implemented and fleshed out with proper rules. And tools are limited here. You can throw stuff to distract, and you can also stealth kill enemies. You stealth kill them by sneaking up behind them and then punching them in the back of the head. It's never not goofy and funny because enemies just flop over like idiots, and also the depth always feels off for some reason, and every single time I snuck up and punched a guy in the back of the head, I would swing and miss and completely whiff it, and then I would have to kind of like readjust and punch again, leaning in more. It's awkward, and I wish this stuff was a little better feeling. Along with that, the game does have some control issues. It's not as buttery smooth as some recent other big budget VR games from the last year or so. I found it can be a bit finicky at times. I would be storing filters in my inventory and then actually change the filter instead. Pulling out my larger weapon over my right shoulder would often take multiple pulls, as well as pulling my smaller sidearm from my hip. Dude, the amount of times I would whip out my gun just for it to fail, and then just me having my hand out, not holding a gun, was very frustrating. Then when I don't need the gun or I don't need my healing syringe on my other hip, I found myself accidentally pulling those out at times. I adjusted settings and like double checked my VR setup. It didn't seem to be an issue on my end. It was just some frustrating stuff here. Now, other than the actual creeping around and shooting, I found everything else you do kind of just okay after a while. You know, there were a few creative little environmental puzzles and things, but otherwise, a lot of it felt like it ran on a Steam and felt a little bland. Environments don't have a ton of variety, and characters are kind of ugly and flat, and I didn't really enjoy many of those interactions with them. They just didn't really hit it for me, despite decent voice acting and the writing I mentioned earlier. With all that being said, I still want to emphasize the moment-to-moment is cool. When you're creeping down a dark hallway and, you know, you hear some creatures howl in the distance, so you're frantically looking around with your stupid little circle light all through like a foggy gas mask lens, just desperately trying to get through somewhere, and you get lost, or, you know, you circle back. It can get really messy and chaotic in a good way. That sense of darkness is really, really well done if you have your settings right. And even if the actual scares and like the set piece stuff don't amount to like the good stuff from the mainline Metro games, it's the atmosphere that really does. That feeling is still there. Maybe the story will hit harder for you than it did with me. Either way, like I said at the start, it's a game worth trying out in VR at some point, maybe on sale. It's not quite up to the quality level of like a Half-Life Alyx or a Batman, but if you've been playing other VR games for a while, smaller scale ones, you might find the shortcomings a bit easier to forgive. There are some interesting things it's hard not to talk about without spoilers, but I do think Metro fans, like people who have read the books or really intensely followed the story, are gonna like some of the things that go down here, or at least find them interesting or worth talking about. So again, like I said, maybe consider giving it a shot at a point. Thank you if you did watch this video and watching a VR video from us. We don't do a ton of these, but after the response of Batman Arkham VR, we're gonna try and give it a shot when we can. But of course, this is a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. Let me know what you think about the Metro series, and let me know what you think about it coming to VR. If you are playing it, I would love to know where you're playing it, whether it's Quest standalone or connected to a PC like me, or maybe on PSVR 2. Any and all thoughts at all, definitely let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Now, if you like this video, maybe it helped you out a little bit, maybe informed your purchase, or you just like seeing gameplay and it, kept you busy today, clicking the like button helps us out. We really appreciate it. Thank you. But as always, just thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.